Welcome to the Bro Code Podcast. Join Kennedy Lucas, Terry Lester, and Jackson Smith as they break down the biggest plays, share locker room banter, and keep it 100 on sports hot takes. Gear up, because this is where the real talk begins. Gear up! Cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up. Cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to another exciting podcast here today. This is the Bro Code Podcast presented by Our Heart Media. And boy, howdy, don't we have a great show for you guys today. I do want to say thank you guys so very much on behalf of K.L.P Entertainment, K.L.P Studios, and the Bro Code Podcast, because, you see that we're in a new stage setup, a new setup here with the lights, the cameras, the glitz, the glamour. You guys make this thing possible, right? T. Jackson, y'all, they made this thing possible when it comes down to everybody that's been enjoying the Bro Code podcast. And within this show, the show has been growing to great heights, and I'm very, very excited to try to share, bask in this space with you two, T and J. You guys have been very, very fantastic hosts along with the show, and you guys, the audience, is what make this show very, very possible, and for our show to keep growing for Our Heart Media and all the other major platforms you get your podcast from. So thank y'all in advance for this new setup and this built setup. Especially a big shout out to the K.L.P Entertainment crew, of course, putting this thing together. It takes a village. It does take a village to get this thing popping for a lot of people. It does take a village to see everybody come on the show and really build stages and new sets here in the studio. I'm just ever proud of our business growing. So I'm very, very thankful for that. We do have quite a few things to talk about here on the Bro Code Podcast. So sit back, relax, grab a snack or juice wherever you're watching us. If you're listening to us, thank you. But if you're watching us on your phone, your iPad, and believe it or not, T, I have quite a few fans of ours that have been watching our show on their TVs, right? They go either on their Roku TV, they type in either YouTube or Spotify for video or even Facebook Watch, and they've been watching our show on their TV. So thank y'all so very much in advance. I'm very, very blessed and humbled about that. So let's get on with the show today.
Yes, Kennedy. So here's the latest in sports. NFL training camps are underway ahead of the 2025 season, which means national NFL reporters Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler have been on the road for their annual camp tour. They stopped at camps for 16 different teams, starting July 25th with the Lions and ending August, 2 with the Ravens and Titans. The duo spent the past couple of weeks traveling around the country, talking to players, coaches, execs, and scouts along the way. We compiled everything they heard and learned at their stops. How has J.J. McCarthy looked at Vikings camp? Has Caleb Williams bounced back from his struggles at Bears camp? And which rookie is the talk of Bucks camp? Here's the latest from each team, including useful fantasy football nuggets to know. Excuse Brian Callahan's sometimes sunny optimism this time of year. About 7 months ago, he was sitting in his office reflecting on how his Titans won 3 games in 2024, plotting ways to improve. Now, in his second camp as an NFL head coach, he has a quarterback he wholly endorses, Cam Ward, and a roster with some level of improvement. It certainly gives you energy and excitement of what can be, he said. This is a path out of the bottom. The Titans operate that uneasy space where the team should be better, but not good enough to contend just yet. The roster clearly needs more work. No one here is shying away from that. They have one top 10 player, defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons. According to ESPN's project of executives, coaches and scouts ranking all 11 positions. No other player was particularly close. Guard Peter Skoronski was no. 14 among guards and centers. They have poured $100 plus million and two recent first-round picks in the offensive line. But the question looming over Callahan's second season is this. What are healthy expectations for the Titans? Given the roster challenges, they are evading any win total goals and conversations. But General Manager Mike Borgonzi knows exactly what he wants to see from a playstyle standpoint. I'm really not big into expectations. I want to see growth. Borgonzi said, I want to see competition and discipline and start to come together as a team. Are we getting better? Getting better will be a process. The offense had a solid day and a poor day during my 2-day stint with the team, and Callahan wasn't so sunny after the latter, letting his offense know they got dominated. He has wrestled a lot with how to win games. The offensive line is a start. Reducing penalties and turnovers will go a long way, and he knows a young quarterback can galvanize a team and elevate the play around him. Callahan has seen it with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, and he pays attention league-wide. You don't want to put wins and losses on a rookie quarterback, but obviously we want to win football games. Callahan said, when you look back at success or failure of a rookie year, you look at Jaden Daniels last year and say that was a success. You look at Caleb Williams and say that probably wasn't, but it's all based on record. Well, Caleb did a lot of good things, just like Jaden did. The teams are different. It's hard to compare those guys. But you see the standards of what it's supposed to look like. Best of the rest. During my 2 days visiting Tennessee, Ward performed exactly how you'd expect a talented but green rookie to perform. The first day, he showed deft creativity throwing on the move and threw a beautiful deep ball to Calvin Ridley, who dropped it. On the second day, the entire offense struggled, and he did not respond well to exotic third down blitz packages. This is part of the maturation. We've put him under quite a bit of stress when it comes to that, Callahan said. He's got a really good understanding of football, and he's able to apply it on the field quickly, which I think is what drew us to him in the draft. He has this ability to process that is pretty unique. Ward is already a team leader, drawing several rookies to arrive between 4:30 and 5 each morning to get ready for the day. And on a recent off day, Ward unexpectedly popped into Callahan at 4 p.m. to go over the next day's scripts. Ward needed to be able to explain the offense the next day, so he wanted to be prepared. He works really, really hard, Callahan said. The work ethic thing is legit. Tyler Lockett was blunt in why he came to Tennessee. I wanted to play with Cam, said Lockett, who had heard good things from veterans friends such as Quandre Diggs about how Ward works and improves. You can tell he's really good at extending the play, understanding pocket awareness, and still having an idea of everybody's routes. Speaking of Ward's off-script ability, Lockett has been one of the league's best at getting open on the scramble drill after years of playing with Russell Wilson. Lockett calls it the second play, and he loves them, but he acknowledges his role in Tennessee will likely be different than through his first 10 years. He's playing more inside now, known for avoiding hits by getting down at opportune times. He says he might have to absorb more hits now as he fights for tough yards in a new offense. He's willing to do whatever it takes. You've got to let go of that pride of, I know how to do this, and you've got to go back to the learning stage and be coachable, Lockett said. It's about learning things new and down the road, creating those relationships so that they know when you're doing what you're asked to do, they will be more open to ideas that you might have. A trio of rookie draft picks, mid-round receivers Chimere Dike and Alec Iomanor and tight end Gunnar Helm, are earning playing time. Borgonzi predicts they will be in the rotation. Every day there's a flash. They need to play and learn, he said. And in the case of Helm, who has natural pass-catching skills, he could really take off. The Titans have been impressed with his pass-catching ability. Now, he has to nail the rest of the tight end routine. But don't be surprised if Tennessee runs 2 TE sets with Chig Okonkwo and Helm soon enough. I don't often feed the best shape of my life camp themes, but goodness, does Simmons look impressive? He's down 20 pounds and looks a lot lighter. If it's not chicken or fish, it's not on the menu, Simmons said. Simmons is not a volume sack guy, but is hoping for more pass rush production. The Titans don't have that guy who can go get a sack on third and 7 late in the game. Simmons hopes to fulfill some of that. While the Titans have been pleased with Brandon Allen's presence as a primary backup quarterback, They will monitor free agency or potential trades for veterans over the next month. Allen looked capable of handling QB2 duties from what I saw. He has been productive in camp. Tennessee is open to adding on defense via free agency. Pass rusher and corner would be two spots to watch there. One name to watch, veteran defensive end Preston Smith. A few defensive backs worth mentioning. Corner Jarvis Brownlee Jr., whom Callahan says is doing a strong job as a steady starter, and rookie safety Kevin Winston Jr., who has generated a lot of buzz. He had a timely safety blitz to fluster Ward in one of the practices. Bryce Oliver has made a compelling case for the sixth receiver spot. He has good size and toughness. But veteran James Proche hasn't gone away either. Key fantasy note: the Titans used a 75-25 share between running backs Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears last season. Pollard definitely isn't shrinking in stature. He's a feature back and one of their best players. People I've talked to in Tennessee believe Spears has positioned himself for an uptick. However, last season, he ran the ball 84 times and had 30 catches. Something close to 100 carries wouldn't be shocking. He has looked explosive running through holes. And the Titans hope he can stave off injury after he missed 5 games in 2024. Graziano's notes from Baltimore Ravens camp. Location: Owings Mills, Maryland. Date visited: August. 2. The Ravens' biggest problem is one that's tough to solve in August. They need to find a way to be the same team in the postseason that they are in the regular season. Last season, for example, they were one of the best teams in the league at avoiding turnovers. Their 11 giveaways in the regular season were the third fewest in the NFL, behind only the Bills and the Chargers. They did not turn the ball over once in their first-round playoff victory over the Steelers. Then they got to Buffalo for the divisional round and turned it over 3 times in a 27-25 loss to the Bills. This is not a new problem. Over the past 5 years, the Ravens have turned the ball over 95 times in 84 games, the 4th lowest total in the league. But in 7 playoff games over that same span, they've turned it over 10 times. Only the Chiefs have more, and they played 16 playoff games over that span. Baltimore's regular season turnover margin over the past 5 seasons is plus 15, which ranks 7th. Their postseason turnover margin over the past 5 seasons is minus 8, which is the league's worst. Again, tough problem to solve from 5 months away. The Ravens look like one of the best teams in the league, if not the best, on paper. There doesn't seem to be any systemic reason why these devastating problems come up in January, when they don't in the regular season. When I spoke with Ravens coach John Harbaugh after Saturday's practice, he agreed. But as a coach, he said, you feel like you want to do everything you can to make it better. So Harbaugh and his coaches came up with an idea this offseason. All around the team facility are large screen TVs that, in past years, would have shows on them. Sports Center, stuff like that. This year, those same TVs are showing practice tape. But not just any practice tape. Harbaugh and his coaches pick out specific highlights from each day's practice and cut them up to fit into different categories, such as tackling, pursuit, ball assault, and convoy. They grade each player in each practice in each category and designate the day's winner in each. So if a player is stopping by the cafeteria to grab a bottle of Gatorade on his way to a meeting, he could look up and see his or one of his teammates' highlights from the previous day's practice presented as an example of what coaches are looking for. Harbaugh and I were watching some of these screens as we spoke. These are ball assaults now. He said of one highlight in particular, which was labeled ball assault. This is the defense attacking the ball in practice. Now this is convoy. Convoy is basically the offensive version of running to the ball, chasing the pile, getting out in front, getting a block in front of somebody. Then there's pursuit for the defense, the defensive version of the same thing. Puncture, which is catch and get upfield. On it all goes in an endless loop all day. It's on in the meeting rooms as well, with everyone's grades from the previous day in each category. We figured out the grading, Harbaugh said. A lot of math involved in the way we grade all this stuff, because you want to compare guys. You want to have winners and losers involved. So, what's a block worth compared to like a big play catch or something? Stuff like that. The key, though, for Harbaugh is that these cut-ups are everywhere in the building. not just in the meeting rooms. The whole thing has been about the idea of intentionality, he said. Be intentional. We've talked about it before, but we've taken it to another level. These screens here, these are all intentional plays from practice. So they run on different screens around the building. I want it to be in the biggest moment, not thought about. I want it to be just the way they play and the way they live. I want it to be in the background noise. Because we were really good on turnovers last year, and then we turned the ball over in the divisional game. It's a fascinating attempt at a solution to an impossibly vexing problem. Harbaugh can't fast forward to January and coaches players harder to avoid turnovers. He feels like he has to do something, and this is what he has come up with. He has also added a couple of secondary coaches, former Colts coach Chuck Pagano and former Kansas City assistant Donald DeLisio, and signed former Packers cornerback Jair Alexander, who has livened up practice with his energy. Alexander was all over the place Saturday, intercepting Lamar Jackson and prompting huge celebrations with the entire defense around him and Pagano. The coaches are preaching takeaways because the organization feels that one of the reasons its postseason turnovers are so costly is that they aren't taking away the ball enough in those games. The Ravens have a total of 2 takeaways in those 7 playoff games they played over the past 5 years. This year is about getting takeaways for me, said second-year cornerback Nate Wiggins, who has established the goal of collecting double-digit takeaways himself this season. I know I dropped plenty last year, so the ball is going to come. I just got to catch it. Best of the rest. When I was at the Super Bowl, I remember a couple of Chiefs coaches telling me how impressed they were with wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins' coaching ability after they traded for him mid-season. They credited Hopkins with helping the development of rookie receiver Xavier Worthy, saying Hopkins would grab Worthy after drives and go over routes with him on the tablets. Hopkins even made suggestions for changing practice drills that were well received enough that the Chiefs coaches changed the drills. Harbaugh said the Ravens have seen some of that since signing Hopkins in the offseason. That Hopkins has been a help to Jackson in terms of figuring out passing game concepts that Jackson likes and getting offensive coordinator Todd Monken to add them to playbook. Hopkins isn't done playing, obviously, but late in his career, he seems like the type of player who can have an impact on a team in a lot of different ways. Baltimore doesn't have a lot of camp position battles. It's sorting out who will start at left guard, with Harbaugh saying after Saturday's practice that Andrew Voorhees has the lead in the competition over Ben Cleveland. The Ravens might look to add another safety for depth, and as of now it looks like their primary return man will be 6th-round rookie LaJohntay Wester. They need to figure out kicker, having released veteran Justin Tucker in the offseason and drafted Tyler Loop in the 6th round. If Loop doesn't show consistency through the preseason, they could look to bring in someone else. But this is a deep, strong roster without a lot of question marks. Asking around about potential breakout candidates, I heard the names of Wiggins, first-round rookie safety Malachi Starks, and defensive tackle Travis Jones, who one member of the organization said reminded him a little bit of Ravens' great Haloti Ngata because of the size and ability to generate interior pressure. They also expect second-year right tackle Roger Rosengarten to take a major step forward. Harbaugh said DeLisio was a coach he had targeted for some time. Harbaugh said he has a high school friend who knows DeLisio well and used to encourage Harbaugh to hire him. But DeLisio was under contract in Kansas City, and each time Harbaugh asked for permission to talk to him, Andy Reid said no. But after the Super Bowl, Harbaugh got word from his high school buddy that circumstances may have changed. He told Harbaugh to try again, which he did, and then finally got a yes. Harbaugh also said that when he was looking for new coaches for the secondary this offseason, he asked safety Kyle Hamilton if he knew of anyone good, and Hamilton brought up DeLisio without knowing that Harbaugh was already trying to hire him and said he'd heard from friends of his in Kansas City that he was an outstanding teacher. The Ravens believe they got a rising star in the coaching ranks. The Ravens are working on a few contract extensions they hope to get done by the end of the season, including Hamilton, tight end Isaiah Likely, and center Tyler Linderbaum. It doesn't sound like anything is imminent with any of those, but don't be surprised if you hear news on one or more of them over the next few months. Key fantasy note. Back in 2023, the Ravens' run game got a jolt from a speedy 21-year-old running back named Keaton Mitchell, who ran for 396 yards and averaged 8.4 yards per carry in a 6-game stretch before tearing his ACL in a December game in Jacksonville. Mitchell made it back from the injury to play in 5 games last season, but never looked like himself. This summer, he appears to have his speed back, and the Ravens are excited about it. Derrick Henry will be the primary ball carrier, of course, but Mitchell adds a different element to this run game. Expect him to have a role in the offense. A looming issue at Vikings camp is Jordan Addison's availability to start the season. My sense after asking around is the Vikings are bracing for roughly a 3-game suspension for Addison, who in July pleaded no contest to a lesser charge to resolve a 2024 DUI citation. The team's projection is based in part on the league's recent precedent for 3-game suspensions for DUI-related offenses. While Addison has said he's prepared for whatever the NFL decides, for now he's preparing for a year 3 jump with goals of becoming a better all-around receiver. The Vikings' WR1 spot is unquestioned. That belongs to Justin Jefferson. But after nearly 1,800 yards and 19 touchdowns through 2 seasons, Addison believes he has a capacity to be one in ability, if not by title. I would say so. That's why I said I'll keep getting better to be a better all-around receiver to show the team I am that, said Addison after Friday's practice. I don't want people to look at me and think he's good at these 2 things, but lacking here. It's about letting the coaches know I'm getting better in the offense every single year. All-around improvement isn't just the field. Addison, who previously told local reporters he was in a dark place after the DUI, believes he's in a good spot mentally. I would say I'm a good person if you really get to talk to me, he said. I just feel I made some bad decisions. I've got to put it all behind me and be better every day. Addison is in a de facto contract year and is still looking for his first 1,000-yard season. He believes Coach Kevin O'Connell will use him all over the field. He doesn't care much about where he ranks in the receiver pantheon, though he agrees with the notion that he's probably underrated. I don't really care about what anybody says. I know what I can do and I know where I'm headed, Addison said. Whenever the ball comes to me, I'm going to make a play. Best of the rest. Defensive line, defensive line, defensive line. That was almost always the first thing that came up in my talks with Vikings people coming off the practice field. The additions of Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave changed the tenor of camp from the previous year. They are getting a push at the line of scrimmage, impacting our team in a real physical way, O'Connell said. Age is at least a mild concern with the front. Allen is 32, Hargrave 30, and Harrison Phillips 29. That's why the Vikings could be thoughtful with their rotation. Rookie 5th-round pick Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins has played well enough to potentially crack it. Overall, the defense is operating at full tilt in camp. One of the most talented, cohesive, high-level scheme defenses, in my opinion, in the NFL, O'Connell said. I might be biased. The sense I get talking to people with the team is that McCarthy, with plenty of arm strength, is working on his touch. Most everything is a fastball right now. He did throw a nice fade ball that was nearly a touchdown. The Vikings have seen glimpses but are trying to sustain momentum. I would say he has a pretty strong arm. That's one of his strengths, Addison said. He's accurate, reads the defense pretty well. I feel he's going to be good. It's still early right now, but when it comes to anticipation throws, beating the defense with the ball, I feel he's going to be a great quarterback in this league. Jefferson's hamstring injury is not a major concern. In fact, my sense is that some of the Vikings are so relieved he can rest up during a long camp. He could get some practice work this week, but expect Minnesota to slowly ease him back. The good thing is we avoided serious injury, but at the same time we want to make sure he goes through the right process before he's back at full speed. O'Connell said, we get to build that up and really manage something in a short amount of time without the threat of the regular season being an issue. We want to be smart. But at the same time, Justin wants to get back on the field. Jalen Nailor is getting a lot of love at camp. When I asked O'Connell about players picking up the slack in Jefferson's absence, he was quick to mention Nailor. We're looking for Speedy to pick up where he left off last year, O'Connell said. Nailor had 134 receiving yards in the final 2 regular season games. Key fantasy note. I entered camp with the expectation that Jordan Mason would be a major player in the offense alongside Aaron Jones in backfield, and my visit Friday did nothing to dispel that. In fact, I believe a genuine RB1 deal in something of a 50 to 50 distribution is not totally off the table, depending on how things unfold over the next month. Mason's prominent reps Friday were noticeable, and he offers youthful explosion to Jones' savvy all-around game. Fun note, Vikings running backs coach Curtis Modkins oversaw Denver's tailbacks in 2021, when Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams each had exactly 203 carries. Saquon Barkley was the star of the show at the surprisingly chilly, overcast practice I attended Friday. He broke off a long run, caught passes out of the backfield, scored on a short touchdown run, followed it up with a 2-point conversion run, and hopped off the field trash-talking players on the defense about how tired they looked. It was almost as if he was trying to remind us all, after a couple of days in which the defense might have gotten the better of the offense, who the engine is that drives things for the defending Super Bowl champions. Barkley is coming off a season in which he touched the ball a whopping 482 times between the regular season and the postseason. That's the highest single season total for a running back since DeMarco Murray racked up 497 in 2014 for the Cowboys, and the second highest since Eddie George had 488 in 2000 for the Titans. Barkley is 28 years old, and last season was just the third time in his 7-year NFL career that he managed to play at least 16 games in a season. The Eagles know these numbers. They know that every running back who's accumulated 400 or more touches in a season since 2000 has failed to repeat his production the following season, and that most haven't come close. They examine every one of those 482 touches, where they happen on the field, when they happen in games, and where during each one he did, or in the case of the games against the Rams, for example, didn't get hit. Their question would be, what exactly do you want us to do about it? Barkley is still their best player, and putting the ball in his hands gives them the best chance to win games. They can try all they want to get in breaks and use free agent signee A.J. Dillon to spell him in certain situations. But going to be tough on a big third, and 3 in the fourth quarter of a close game against the Cowboys or Commanders to keep Barkley on the sideline because his touches are getting too high. We've kind of talked about that. He and I have offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo said of Barkley's workload. I think it's very game-specific. It depends on how the flow of the game goes. He does a really good job of knowing himself, of knowing when he needs to come out, when he wants to go back in. So a lot of that will be on him, obviously, during games, and he's really good about paying attention to that. Patullo is kind of the new guy in the mix here. He was on the staff the past 4 years as passing game coordinator, but he was promoted this offseason to offensive coordinator when Kellen Moore left to take the Saints job. He has been coaching in the NFL since 2007 and has worked in a number of different systems. One person I spoke to Friday said Patullo was overdue to get a shot to run an offense, and certainly he'll look to put his own stamp on things. But he's also tasked with keeping this very successful train on the tracks. So the DNA of the Eagles' Super Bowl champion offense isn't likely to change much. Yes, I would love to be a run-play-action team, right tackle Lane Johnson told me. It makes things really fun up front. We were really balanced last year, so it was a lot easier in the passing game when you have someone in the backfield that can do that. We'd like to have a similar approach this year. One of the things that give the Eagles confidence in Patullo is their familiarity with him. It's his 5th year working with their offense and with quarterback Jalen Hurts. He worked with coach Nick Sirianni when they were both on the staff in Indianapolis. He was side by side with Moore all of last season in anticipation of the possibility they'd have success and Moore would get a head coaching opportunity. So the expectation is that the transition will be smooth. Kevin's done a good job, Johnson said. I think he's been really instrumental in the past 4 or 5 years that he's been here and been next to our OC. Really big in installing our passing game. So it's really been a flawless transition, and as we progress toward the season, we just keep getting better and better. There's an if it ain't broke, don't fix it feel to the offense in Philly. It's fair to expect games that look the way Friday's practice did, Barkley heavy, until someone figures out how to stop it. We're still the Eagles' offense, and I don't think that'll change, Patullo said. I think it starts with a run game up front, and we build from there, and then obviously we'd like to try new things here and there. So we'll see how that goes throughout training camp, And where it leads us, best of the rest. Personnel-wise, things stayed pretty much the same for the Eagles on offense. The only starter they lost to free agency was Mekhi Becton, who played very well for them at right guard after signing a one-year prove-it deal last season. Stepping in for him will be 2023 third-round draft pick Tyler Steen, who was projected to start at right guard last season before he got injured in the offseason and Becton played so well. The Eagles believe Steen is ready, just as they believed a year ago that Cam Jurgens was ready to take over for the retiring Jason Kelce at center. The Eagles' offensive line is its own subculture, and one of the benefits of the way they've been able to draft is that guys get on-the-job training and get to see firsthand examples of what's expected before they ascend to starting roles. It's one thing to draft a young guy and explain to him the way it was when past franchise greats held down a position. It's quite another to draft a young guy and let him work side by side with those greats, so that he doesn't need to be told what's expected when it's his turn to start. Jurgens made the Pro Bowl in his first year as a starter, and after working alongside Kelce for 2 years. The hope is that Steen, who has spent the past 2 years working alongside the likes of Kelce, Jurgens, Johnson, Landon Dickerson, and Jordan Mailata will benefit in the same way. The bulk of the roster changes this offseason came on defense, where the departures included Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Darius Slay, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The Eagles saw a lot of these changes coming and have been drafting for years with an eye toward replacing veterans on defense as they age out or price themselves out. They are paying 8 players at least $15 million per year, and Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and others on the defense will be in line for contract extensions soon enough. They need to get high-level production out of defenders on rookie contracts. So while they brought in free agent veterans such as Josh Uche and Azeez Ojulari at edge rusher and Adoree Jackson at cornerback, they prefer to see young players Moro Jomo, Ty Robinson, and Kalia Ringo take on bigger roles the way Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Jalix Hunari have shown the ability to do. General Manager Howie Roseman has an extensive track record of acquiring proven veterans to help in key spots as needed, but the program sustains itself best when the young players develop into starters. The Eagles will keep a close eye on which ones can do that this season. Rookie first-round linebacker Jahad Campbell is obviously someone for whom they have the highest of hopes. The Eagles started trying to trade up to draft Campbell as early as 18, but only ended up having to move up one spot from 32 to 31 to select him. He has been getting a lot of practice reps, even working with the first team, as Zach Bond has missed some time recently with a back issue, and he has a chance for significant playing time if he shows he's capable. For an inside linebacker, he needs to show his improvement in 11-on-11, defensive coordinator Vic Fangio said. The most fundamental thing you have to do on defense is figure out if it's a run or a pass, and that's critical for an inside linebacker, and the more reps he can get that way, the better he'll be. Key fantasy note: running back Will Shipley was very active in the practice I attended, and with Kenneth Gainwell now a Steeler, there should be a role available for Shipley as a pass catcher and third down back. But they've also been impressed with Dillon's ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, as well as run downhill with power. If something were to happen to Barkley, it'd be worth taking a flyer on either one of these guys, but I guess Dillon would be the one to benefit the most with an increased workload, assuming he can keep himself healthy, which was an issue in Green Bay. In super deep fantasy leagues, Shipley may be the guy to have if you're looking for a piece of the Eagles' offense and can't get Barkley, since Shipley is likely to have a role either way. But if Barkley had to miss time for any reason, Dillon would be worth picking up. When I attended Commanders practice on Thursday, I saw second-year quarterback Jaden Daniels kick a teammate out of the huddle and off the field after that teammate false started on a play. The reason I took note of this is because that morning, before practice started, I'd been talking Commanders coach Dan Quinn about the strategy they'd use to acclimate Daniels to the NFL in his rookie season. Quinn told me that a couple of years ago, Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman had shared with him a story about his own rookie season when Cowboys coach Jimmy Johnson had told Aikman, "You be a great teammate and play good quarterback. I'll take care of all the discipline, all the other stuff." That stuck with Quinn. And by the time he was bringing along his own rookie quarterback in the summer of 2024, he decided he'd communicate the same message to Daniels. Don't worry about, you get lined up here, you do this, you do that. Quinn recalled telling Daniels, "We wanted him to be a great teammate and absolutely crush playing quarterback. So much can be put on kids. Lead more. Right now, I want you to build your relationship with your teammates who are learning you and play quarterback. You don't have to bring the team up. You don't have to put the organization on your shoulders. Leave that to us. Of course, at some point, the starting quarterback has to take on that part of the role. Daniels is coming off a season in which he won Offensive Rookie of the Year, finished seventh in MVP voting, and led the Commanders to the NFC Championship game. He has the confidence and, frankly, the credentials to flex those QB leadership muscles. And he's doing it. His inner game, his poise, is really strong. Quinn told me, really strong. And those are things you don't know in the evaluation. But once I found out how strong his inner game is, well, Daniels was a top player on Washington's board in the 2024 draft, and the organization was ecstatic to get him. But the success he had went beyond anyone's expectations for a rookie quarterback. It doesn't hurt that Daniels had 55 college starts at the position before he arrived in the NFL. You feel that, Quinn said. They don't get rattled. It's a real thing. And now, off the success he had as a rookie, Daniels is poised to evolve as an NFL starting quarterback in all the ways he's supposed to. Even if that means he has to be the heavy when someone on the offense messes up. Most definitely night and day. Daniels said of the difference between camp this year and last year. More comfortable in offense. Understanding what offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury is calling and what we want to accomplish. I have different tools in my tool belt. Best of the rest. The Terry McLaurin contract dispute is hanging over an otherwise very positive Commanders camp. Washington's no. One wide receiver is seeking a contract extension and has informed the team he would like to be traded to a team more willing to give him what he wants. The Commanders do not intend to trade him, according to the people I've spoken to there, and they say they continue to work toward a contract extension. McLaurin is at camp, but he is not practicing. He comes out to practice fields when practice ends. The day I was there, he signed autographs for fans as they chanted, "Terry, Terry." His agent has been attending practices and can be seen afterward chatting with McLaurin on the side of the fields. McLaurin has 1 year left on his contract and is scheduled to make just under $20 million this season. He's believed to be looking for a contract worth north of $30 million per year, and the fact he turns 30 next month appears to be a sticking point from the team's perspective. How and when this all gets resolved is still a mystery, but McLaurin's absence from practice is noteworthy. The day I was there, fellow wide receiver Noah Brown also missed practice due to an injury. Without those two, there really isn't a significant downfield threat among the Commanders' receivers. You see a lot of Daniels throwing to Deebo Samuel and tight end Zach Ertz, both of whom are reliable veterans, but neither of whom is going to help Daniels to throw deep. McLaurin's leverage, to the extent that he has any, appears to be that they clearly need him if they want to operate their offense. He has been upfront with the coaching staff about what's going on. He informed Quinn of the trade request before it became public. Daniels said the two of them have been talking a lot and watching film together. So whenever the standoff ends or McLaurin decides to start practicing, it shouldn't take long for things to rev back up. In the meantime, it's the one negative storyline that's cropped up around this team since Quinn and general manager Adam Peters came in last offseason. First-round rookie tackle Josh Connolly has been working at both right tackle and left tackle in camp. The Commanders' starting left tackle is Laramie Tunsil, the all-pro veteran they acquired in a trade with the Texans in March. But the team has been trying to get Connolly some reps on the left side when Tunsil isn't in. That's the side on which Connolly played in college. They believe he needs to show improved strength before they can start him at right tackle, and that could certainly happen in time for week 1. If not, veteran Andrew Wiley would slide in at right tackle while Connolly's development continues. One of the additions the Commanders made to their coaching staff this offseason was former NFL wide receiver Wes Welker, who's serving as a personnel analyst. Welker has coached with the Texans, 49ers, and Dolphins since his playing career ended in 2015. But it's the San Francisco stint that's most pertinent here. Peters, who worked in the 49ers front office before he got the job as Washington's GM, recalls that Welker had a strong connection with Samuel when the two were together there for the first 3 years of Samuel's career. Samuel's best season as a pro came in 2021. Welker's last year in San Francisco, when he caught 77 passes for 1,405 yards and 6 touchdowns, and also rushed for 365 yards and 8 touchdowns. The Commanders have plans to use Samuel in a variety of roles, and they hope reuniting him with Welker can help rekindle some of that early career magic. Key fantasy note: if you are in a keeper or dynasty league, maybe throw a late round flyer on running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He was a Commander's 7th round pick in April, but has turned heads in camp because of his ability to run with vision and cut in the open field. To be clear, the Commanders know one running back remains Brian Robinson Jr., and yes, Austin Ekeler is still on the team. The running back room also includes Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez Jr., and fullback Demetric Felton. But of all the people I have listed here, only one is signed beyond 2025, and that is the rookie Krosky-Merritt. Just saying, keep an eye. This is Jordan Love's team. That was the case by default when he took over as the starter in 2023. But Love is much more comfortable as a leader in year 3 as a starter. LaFleur has urged his quarterback to be vocal, and he's answering that challenge. Night and day, Coach Matt LaFleur told me, even from last year, and I thought he took a big jump last year. Way more presence. As the kids say, he's got aura. Love is not the most outspoken player by nature, but he has worked on it and believes it's going well. Late in 2023, the list of quarterbacks playing better than him was short. But last season, the Week 1 knee injury cost him momentum and mobility. He is back to moving well, and he's got the best supporting cast in his 3 years as a starter. Another emphasis from LaFleur to his quarterback. When the opportunity presents itself, you've got to use your legs. Love's rushing yards dipped from 247 to 83 year-over. He didn't hesitate to roll out of the pocket and outrun a few defenders toward the sideline during the day I visited. You can see the urgency he's playing with right now. LaFleur said, a lot of times in this era, you're going to go as far as your quarterback goes. But it does take everybody around him playing at a high level. One clear observation: Love is very comfortable throwing to his tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, who were featured prominently during this particular session. Part of that was by design, as at least 2 receivers were on rest days when I visited. Injuries limited Musgrave to 7 games last season, which resulted in a Kraft breakout season, but lack of the potent 2T attack the Packers envisioned. That plan is now back on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today is Monday night, so we do hope that everybody has had glorious weekend. I know I was able to have a very glorious weekend because not only we've been out filming for our new film and whatnot and our TV shows and whatnot, but of course, this past weekend I was able to catch WWE's SummerSlam 2025. Boy howdy, that was a premium live event. And I know that's like the speculation that, that's the new name for the big pay-per-view events, the PLEs, the premium live events for WWE. And let me tell you, I am very excited for SummerSlam 2025. Obviously, they were down there or up there because we're here in Atlanta, up there in New Jersey. Shout out to everybody that's from New Jersey. I know one of my favorite podcasters, Joe Budden and crew, they're up there in New Jersey with their podcast shows as well. WWE SummerSlam is one of those events, guys, that everybody had to tune in for. Everybody was very excited for because they were at MetLife Stadium, y'all. MetLife Stadium. That is very impeccable for a PLE. SummerSlam had this feeling that it looked like Wrestlemania, right? WrestleMania has been in MetLife Stadium, I want to say about twice now. So it's very exciting to see that a pay-per-view that's not like WrestleMania being able to sell out, right? We saw it, the venue at MetLife Stadium, we saw the audience, we saw the stage set up, and it looked like they sold really well for this PLE. It was very good for them to do the big stadium. It's hard to do a stadium. It's hard to sell out a stadium full of people when it comes down to people wanting to know about the pay-per-view, wanting to know about a lot of things that's going on with their PLEs. You know, PLEs were WWE mostly, they take it to where it's normally, arenas, right? So now that they're able to really do it out really well and have it at a full-on stadium, that's quite amazing. Now, they started this stadium thing, I want to say about 3 years ago. I don't remember the 2023 SummerSlam in particular, but I do remember last year's SummerSlam, because last year they were in Cleveland, right? They was at the stadium where the Browns play, and they sold really well. So WWE saw like, hey, this thing happens, this thing works. We need to start selling more of these stadium type PLEs for WWE, and now they're able to do SummerSlam. I remember back in my heyday when I was a kid. Let me tell y'all, when I was a kid, we would watch SummerSlam. They would just do arenas, right? It wasn't that huge of a PLE like WrestleMania. SummerSlam now gives that WrestleMania type feel. Now I'm here for it. I'm glad for it. I wish all the PLEs were like that. Not every PLE is like that, but I wish all of them were. Because they're able to turn profit. Now, the annual premium live event took place again, MetLife Stadium, SummerSlam in Jersey this year. Of course, they had the celebrity host of Cardi B. Sure. No hate on Cardi B, guys, because I like Cardi B, right? I'm just a real stickler with Cardi B simply because that new song Outside, I do like it. I do work out to it. It's a great song for SummerSlam. I know we're talking about sports because this is our official sports show, but Cardi B, I'm ready for that new album. I'm ready for some new music from Cardi B, so I'm really, really skeptical. Of course, WWE does this thing where they're integrating a lot of celebrities, and it's like a hit or miss for me when it comes down to celebrities. Of course, Drewski was there to do his cameo. Cardi B's there to do a cameo. It's all a promotion stunt to get them to get on camera. I get it. Drewski's a funny guy. Cardi B's a musician and an artist. I understand it. I kind of feel like I wish WWE sometimes would just let the celebrities alone, right? I get it. You got to have celebrities a part of your company because that's what's going to sell your tickets. That's what's going to help you out in the long run with this company. WWE is changing, right? And I guess me being, I don't want to say an old head, T and J, I'm an old head to a certain extent because I am 29. I have watched wrestling back when I was a kid. I can't say I watched wrestling in the 1980s because I wasn't in that genre. I didn't exist in the 1980s. But me being born and raised in 1996, the early 2000s, I know of WWE. And of course they had sponsors, but not too many sponsors, right? They didn't have so many celebrities a part of this thing. Now, I guess I just got to understand the times. Times have changed. Times have changed. Things are changing. People are really getting into it. Celebrities are getting more into it. Streamers are getting more into it because it sells tickets. It allows them to be on this platform where they're growing their business. I understand it, right? However, I do like it where you have a lot of YouTubers, right? I've seen a lot of YouTubers who I got to see how they do it. They stream PLEs and they have the copyrighted ways to stream the PLEs and they do reactions to it for their YouTube channel as content creators. I do like that. I do like that term. I do like how they do it. I think that's pretty cool because it's allowing other smaller YouTube channels to be content creators and to do their thing. So I do appreciate that. So SummerSlam, ladies and gentlemen, they had two nights of SummerSlam. Of course, we'll talk about the night one, Jackson, first, and then I'll turn over to the page to talk about night two. And typically what I do on the K.L.P. Aftermath is I talk briefly about each matchup and each lineup for WWE. On the Bro Code podcast, tonight's Monday Night Special episode, you guys, with our new set, by the way, you guys, I'm going to break down my thoughts and opinions within the lineup of WWE's Night 1 of SummerSlam. Of course, here is the title card. Of course, you had Tiffany Stratton, and then, of course, ladies and gentlemen, on the Broco podcast, I'll go one by one. So the first matchup we had on night one, after Cardi B did her thing when it comes down to it, we had Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill. Of course, and I'm going by the list here, the list lineup. I know some of these might be a little bit out of order, but let's talk about it. Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill's WWE Championship match. It was very, very impactful to see. I'm a little sad about this one because even though I am a huge Tiffany Stratton fan, I was kind of rooting for Jade Cargill because honestly, Jade Cargill, when she came to the WWE, I had high expectations, right? She's coming from AEW. She's this powerhouse superstar. She got the muscles, the abs, and the swollenness of her. I thought I was gonna have her come in and be this dynamic superstar. And quite honestly, I like Jade Cargill as a person, as a personality. Obviously, she claims Atlanta, even though she's from Florida. She claims Atlanta too. She owns a team, a softball team too. So I understand the businesswoman of Jade Cargill. As the wrestler, I'm here to say, after seeing this championship match, I have not been solely impressed with Jade Cargill. Let me tell you why. Because first of all, I had high expectations for Jade Cargill. I really did. I really vouched for her. When she first stepped into WWE, I was so excited, right? Because she was the powerhouse. I thought she was going to be in the lights of Rhea Ripley, even the lights of Bianca Belair, right? And even though they were tag team champions, Belair's out because she still has that finger injury. I really do hope that WWE allows Jade Cargill to have a championship belt around her waist soon, because I feel like, and maybe WWE, and then no shade on Jade Cargill because I'm a WWE fan, I gotta dissect this as a sports analyst. I haven't been impressed with Jade Cargill's performance. I remember when she first came out, she sucked as a wrestler, right? I'm sorry, Jade. I got to call you out. You sucked as a wrestler when you first came to WWE, and now with your energy, your injury, and your time off, right? I thought, okay, this is a time where WWE is going to let Jade go in Performance Center, develop a little bit more, right? She needs a little bit more development, in my opinion. She came back. When she came back to Elimination Chamber because Naomi attacked her, boy howdy, I thought that was going to be the reign of Jade Cargill. I thought that was going to be upskill of Jade Cargill. Her being the solidified badass that I know she could be, that's what I thought that was going to happen, right? So when she starts to get back into the arena and started to perform, and now she didn't come up on top against Tiffany Stratton at WWE's championship match at SummerSlam. WWE's probably considering her now that she's not up to the reigns of the Rhea Ripleys. She's not up to the reigns of the Io Skies. So she hasn't been up to that superstar status, right? She hasn't been there. So I get very nervous when it comes down to that, when it comes down to her with her championship matchup for sure. Tiffany Stratton, she came up on top, right? Then you had the Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I've been watching a whole lot of the Busted Open podcast, right? I've listened to them a whole heck of a lot because they have been very in tune with it. I really thought that we were going to have Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker go out for. So I really thought that we were going to see Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed come out on top. And I'll tell you why I was thinking that they're on top for sure. Because I listened to the Busted Open podcast. And I think Bully Ray says that if Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker comes up on top for this, then this will set them up as a solidified badass team, because they trademark, I guess they're calling themselves the Vision now. That's been on social media now, the Vision. I thought we were going to see that come up on top because Seth Rollins, we'll get to night two, night one actually, it happened night one. We'll get to that in a minute. I really thought we were going to see a win for Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker because that would solidify them to be the ultimate team with that faction of Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Seth Rollins. It's good to see Roman Reigns back into the limelight of things. It's good to see Jey Uso back doing his thing. It's unfortunate that they didn't go for, on this pay-per-view, they're not up for a belt, right? But I'd like to see that tag team championship between Jey Uso and Roman Reigns. We're probably going to see more of that in, I want to say, November, when Survivor Series come back around the table, because Survivor Series will be in San Diego this year. So we're probably going to see them tag team of some sort within them coming up. I see it if the storyline continues with Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Seth Rollins, we're probably going to see Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Jey Uso tag team up again at Survivor Series. Again, we still got some months to go on that, but it's good to see Roman Reigns and them. That match was very gruesome too. That tag team championship match was very gruesome. Of course, a lot of high fly moves, a lot of spearing, a lot of punches, a lot of stuff going on, and surprisingly, they were the first match, right? They were technically the first match of night one of SummerSlam. So very, very intriguing to see that happen between those two. I do see that we're going to see a lot more of Roman Reigns around Survivor Series time. Again, we saw on social media that Roman Reigns could potentially be taking up time off from WWE up until SummerSlam. Survivor Series. A lot of S's in that. I think this is a bad idea if he's taking time off simply because, he just got back, right? And we want to see more action for Roman Reigns, but I get it, timing. It could be something that he's dealing with because, he's been dealing with leukemia, right? So it could have been that reason, or it could have been he's filming something else. And Roman Reigns, honestly, he's on the superstardom that he can take time off, right? He can sit there and take the time off if he wanted to because he's that big of a superstar, right? He may not have a belt around his waist, but he's that superstar. So it's good to see that come up on top. Of course, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, they won that matchup. Again, I was kind of rooted for Braun Breaker and Bronson because they are this solidified badass team that's forming around with the Oracle Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. We didn't quite see that happen. But they ended up coming up on top. The next match was the Judgment Day. Of course, that was versus Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Of course, Judgment Day representing Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. Also a good match. I like to see titles change hand, right? I don't think this is going to be the end of the Judgment Day. I think it's going to be solidified with Raquel and Roxanne being a tag team. Now, I do say to those two ladies, they hold their head up because they gave us a good match for sure. I think that was a very impactful match when it comes down to them being tag team champions. Unfortunately, they did lose their belts to Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. First and foremost, I am so glad to see Alexa Bliss back into the WWE realm. Of course, she's been down due to injury and training, right? To see her come back and win a belt. I love that dynamic of her and Charlotte not being friends. I do love that traumatic tag team up. I think they're going to have a lot of friction as they become tag team champions because they want to hold on to the belts. Charlotte Flair, I got to say, I'm here for Charlotte Flair. She's been through a lot, with that knee injury, with her third divorce. I watched that episode, Jackson and T, of Unreal, and that whole segment with Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair, they went off script, and they probably got fined for that. Tiffany Stratton probably got fined for that because that was very personal within her divorce, and that was not part of the script. And then Charlotte Flair caused her to have emotions, and she went off script. So it's good to see Charlotte Flair back doing her thing, honestly. She's been through some tough trauma with the divorce and going through surgery, and we didn't know when she was coming back. She came out swinging. Everybody loves her. Everybody loves her, right? So I do think that this is going to be very impactful. I do hope that we kind of stir away from the word nepotism, right? Because it is true that nepotism does exist to some of these superstars that run down if wrestling runs in the family, right? They get a certain push, right? I do got to say, as The Rock being on the board of directors now, you're probably going to have more Samoan wrestlers, which I'm here for it because I actually do like the Samoan family. I really do. But you see them get a little bit more of a push now, right? Because of who's in charge. But it's good to see that. Hold your head up high for the Judgment Day, honestly. The next match that we saw was Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross. Let me tell you something about Karrion Kross. I do agree with the fans. I do think that Karrion Kross should have more of a push when it comes down to him being a superstar. I think Karrion Kross is really is a good wrestler, and they're really training him up to be. At the post show, Triple H comes up, and of course, he's on the post show. And the fans was chanting, "We want Kross. We want Kross." They interpreted, and they probably knew that the audience was chanting Kross. But they said, I think they said, "We want Brock." And Triple H said, hey, you got him. Right? We'll get to night 2 because Brock Lesnar does make his return on night 2. We'll get to that. I do think Karrion Kross should be pushed a little bit more. Because Karrion Kross, although I'm not a big fan of his entrance, I'm a big fan of his character. I do like his character. I do like his wrestling style. I think he's more of the underdog that we need to see push in WWE. It's the same thing with LA Knight. I saw another article. These are all rumors, audience, but there's an article that's circulating that LA Knight could potentially, again, this is rumored, could potentially be leaving WWE because why was LA Knight not there at SummerSlam? He is a big star as well. LA Knight. Yeah, I would have loved to see LA Knight somewhere on the card at SummerSlam. And he was not there at SummerSlam, which is crazy. I think it needs to be more of a creative push for LA Knight. I do agree with that. I think creative needs to push Karrion Kross a little bit more because after a while, we're going to get tired of seeing the same recycled superstars that are on main roster. I want to see somebody different with talent. As an avid WWE fan, Sami Zayn, okay, I guess they're lining something up for him to be a championship coming down the pipeline. I thought he was going to be a little bit more grittier in this match. I thought this was going to be a way for him to turn heel. Because honestly, I don't work for WWE, but I think we've got too many baby faces in here. Right? You cannot have too many baby faces with WWE and not enough heels. Right? It just won't work right. Right? Then we've had the next match that was Randy Orton, Jelly Roll versus Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre. This is the thing I said at the beginning of the segment where I just kind of wish celebrities would just leave the celebrities alone. Jelly Roll, there's nothing offensive. I'm not saying anything against Jelly Roll as an artist. I'm sure he's a pretty good country artist. I don't listen to country music, so I don't really know too much about his songs. But I get that it's a niche. He's out there trying to... He's a good singer. I'm not going to sit here and lie on the show that he's not a good singer. Very fantastic singer. It's just country music's not really my type of tea. But again... And I'll be honest, I give Jelly Roll props and kudos when it's need to be, because Jelly Roll did give us some good moves, right? Jelly Roll did give us some stuff that got us excited, that got our attention going, right? He was able to perform these good moves really, really well. I'll give him that. I have to give him that outlook. But I think there's a time and a place for celebrities, right? Jelly Roll gave us the choke slam. He gave us a couple of rock bottoms, it looked like. And he really took it like a champ, right? He took bumps. Now, I do say Jelly Roll, again, I got to give him some brownie points because he's not a professional wrestler. But when you're setting up a bump, don't make it obvious. Right? There was a move where Jelly Roll, throughout the match, Jelly Roll was laying on the commentating table. He was waiting for Logan Paul to do his bump move, to do that bump. Don't make it obvious. Like, don't just sit there. It's like, okay, I'm waiting for you. Try to act it out like, oh, I'm hurt. I can't move. Oh, shit, here comes Logan Paul. That's what Jelly Roll should have done. Again, I won't fault Jelly Roll too much, guys, because Jelly Roll is not a professional wrestler. He's an artist. So I get it. I understand it. I think Jelly Roll needs to learn when you're trying to sell, right? Sell. Towards the end of that bump, though, this is where I give Jelly Roll some props. He's hurt. He's walking throughout the ring. He said, nope, I can't get this done. He damn near looked like he was crying for real. He got helped towards the back. He sold that. I get it. But then he said, nope, I got to man up. Randy Orton's getting beat up by Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul. I got to tussle this out. Tags him in. Oh, the adrenaline rush is going. Jelly Roll, let me tell you something. It was gross to see that little snot thing running all up your nose. Everybody saw it. It was on camera. It was like a whole thing of snot, just residue right there. He mopped it off, but I was just like, I was gross. I was grossed out because I think I was eating ice cream, and I was like, oh, I don't think I can finish this because I saw that. Grossness, but hey, Jelly Roll's not a professional wrestler, so he didn't know. I think Randy Orton should be booked a little bit more for championship status than this. I do want to see him go for number 15 eventually, but this is the market when it comes down to it. Logan Paul's Logan Paul. not a huge fan of Logan Paul. Drew McIntyre is just, hey, he got booked. That's great for him. But this was even though they lost, it was an okay match. There was a lot of oh shit moments, right? I just think celebrities, again, I would have loved to see Randy Orton and LA Knight versus Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre. Again, there's no thing against Jelly Roll because I'm sure he's a fantastic artist, right? But I've loved to see professional wrestlers who are trained to do this thing for years and years and years get booked. Randy Orton and LA Knight, that would have been one heck of a tag team. Even though I seen them being the rivals, I would have loved to see Randy Orton and LA Knight be booked for this thing instead of Jelly Roll, personally. But we saw it. And then of night one, we had Gunther versus CM Punk. Let me tell you something about CM Punk and Gunther. Good, gruesome match. A lot of heavy hitters, a lot of chops, a lot of attention. There's a lot of things that's going on to this match. I was a little bit upset about this thing here. CM Punk, towards the end of the match, he ended up winning the match. And boy, howdy, I was in my house. I was in my house, in my media room, guys. Really enjoyed this match. I am a huge CM Punk fan. Obviously, he's from Chicago. We just came from Chicago. I love Chicago. I was very upset with this cash-in with Seth Rollins simply because this was the time where they could have said, okay, CM Punk, let him hold the belt for a second. Right? Because he hasn't been champion in the 13 years that he's left the company of WWE, right? He's been AEW champion, right? Of WWE. Give the man a break. Give him a chance to be heavyweight champion. Let him go on this run for a second. But nope, we didn't see that. We saw Seth Rollins cashes in, punts and stomps on CM Punk's head, and now Seth Rollins is now your new champion. CM Punk didn't have the belt. He only had the belt only for 5 minutes. I was very, very upset about this. I was throwing my hands up like, damn, WWE, like, damn, CM Punk, right? And CM Punk can sell. That's the problem I'm having is CM Punk can sell this thing. He can sell being champion. He could sell everything that he needs to have for a second. Let's just have him just hold the belt for just 2 seconds. And nope, we didn't have that. That didn't happen. So that was night one. Again, good show all around. I do say for both nights there were some moments where the crowd wasn't really reacting. The crowd was a little bit quiet for night one as we turn the page for night two. Now, night two, I gotta say, was a little bit better in my opinion, right? The first matchup we saw again was the triple threat match. It was the Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Naomi. Very good for all three of these ladies. Of course, a lot of moves, a lot of beat 'em ups. There's a lot of high flying moves. I do like it how we had Naomi as her dad performed her interest with her. I think that is a dream. I think that's something spectacular. I think that was very special for Naomi and her dad to share in a moment. That goes down in the moment, Jackson and Terry, that performing with your parent and you know your parent knows what you do for a living and you're on this big stadium as MetLife Stadium and you're on TV, that's very special, right? So I give WWE props and kudos for that because that's very, very special. Of course, Naomi turns out to become a returning champion. She's still your women's champion when it comes down to it. Very, very dope. I do give, again, as I said, CM Punk should have been champion on night one. I do like it how they decided that Naomi's going to hold on to the championship for a second because she makes a good champion. That character of proceed with caution, I said it on many show platforms before, that works for her. And then you had the Intercontinental, again, I'm going kind of all everywhere, guys. Intercontinental Championship, AJ Styles versus Dominic Mysterio. Let me tell you, Dominic Mysterio, he's growing on me. He's growing on me. when he first became a wrestler, he sucked. He didn't really, this guy stinks. He didn't, to quote the great Pat McAfee, this guy stinks. I think he stinked at first when he first came out. Dominic Mysterio, let me tell you, he's growing on me as a superstar. He's growing on me as a wrestler. He's starting to pick up on some things. He's starting to learn some things. He's starting to learn some moves. And when he does his moves, it's like, okay, Mysterio, I see you, my guy. I see you. So, although I was rooting for AJ Styles, obviously we're here in Atlanta. AJ Styles lives in Gainesville. That's like a short drive away from us. So, hey, I got to root for every superstar that's from Atlanta. But Mysterio comes out on top and is still your Intercontinental Champion. Very, very dope to see that as well. And then we had the women's non-disqualification match, Laura Valkyria versus Becky Lynch. I think the match was a little bit too long in my opinion. Not a fan of Becky Lynch's new theme music, by the way. Again, if it wasn't broke, don't fix it. When you have a song where the audience can sing and dance to it, oh, why would you change that? Why? It's all about the audience, right? It's all about the audience, and if they can sing to your song, you have it, you have something there. So I don't agree with the theme song change because people still sing to it. I get that she's a heel, but I think her theme song works because you got, again, think about it. You got Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, married couple in real life. They're married. They have a kid together. Seth Rollins' theme song, oh, oh, Becky Lynch, oh. Why would you change Becky Lynch's theme songs? That way you can't sing to it. I don't get it. Creative. Again, I don't work for WWE. Their business is their business. I wouldn't have changed Becky Lynch's theme song quite just yet because you got the two married couples that both of them now are champions. Again, you know, still champions to this day. Keep their theme song. But hey, I digress. And then you had the holy shit TLC match for the WWE Tag Team Championships. Let me tell you, it was this White Six, the Street Profits, Motor City Machine Guns, Feroxium, Andrade, and Ray Phoenix, and Johnny Gargano, Ciampa, DIY. That was the best Tag Team Championship match that we've seen in quite some time. Hands down. The best. There was a lot of high-flying moves. Almost every team got put to some sort of table. They did a tribute, right? Because Bubba Ray and Devon was there as a cameo. And the Hardy Boys was there as a cameo. At the beginning of the match, they paid tribute to those two big teams, right? This Tag Team Championship match was very gruesome. It was very brutal. I do like it how you had Nikki Cross and Johnny Gargano's girl, I forgot her name, and B-Fab was able to be a part of the match as well as they're attacking each other, right? The best Tag Team Champion match where everybody said, holy shit to everything, going through the tables, knocking off the ladders, going through more tables, right? That was the moment for that. Of course, the Wyatt Six did come up on top as champions, as retaining champions. I'm biased. I was going for the Street Profits again. Montez Ford is a prime favorite. Montez, you lucky for marrying Bianca Belair. You better never let her go. Got her fine self. And then Dawkins is starting to grow on me a little bit. I like their theme song. Again, Stevie Stone sings their theme song, and I work out to it. So I'm a big Stevie Stone fan. Good rapper, by the way. I was rooting for the Street Profits because I genuinely do like that team. And this is what I've said in a lot of podcast shows before. I do think we need more black talent, not Samoan, right? Black talent on the main roster. I can't wait when we see more Carmelo Hayes. We need to see more Trick Williams on the main roster. I think it's time. I think it's the appropriate time to bring more people of color back to the main roster. But I digress. I was going for the Street Profits. Great match, by the way. It was very gruesome. It was very, very, very impactful. Steel cage match, Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. Again, Solo Sikoa does retain championship as Tampia and team comes out within Solo. Of course, you had Jimmy Uso. Again, Jimmy Uso's not on main card, but hey, and this is where I love my Samoans, right? But this is where I get upset because Jimmy Uso is not on main roster, not on the main card, but he was able to get some pop. But LA Knight couldn't get pop, right? Nothing against Jimmy Uso. I like Jimmy Uso. He was able to do his thing and be at the aid of Jacob Fatu. Of course, they didn't quite come out on top when Tampia and JC Mateo came out into the interference. I do like the wiggle that Jacob Fatu does. Jacob Fatu, again, he was on the Breakfast Club talking about how impactful he was when it comes down to him being on the main roster. He's having action figures at Walmart and just fulfilling his dream. So that's really, really cool for Jacob Fatu to get his pop. Every time he does his promo, I've said it before, I said it again, it sounds like he's cutting promos, he's cutting a rap. Every time he's spitting some knowledge, like he's rapping when he cuts his promos. Very good match, gruesome match, very good. And the main event of WWE SummerSlam. Again, it was the street fight for the undisputed WWE championships. Again, it was Cody Rhodes and John Cena. For the most part, again, it kind of got. And towards the end, I get why they did it. I mean, you made John Cena now a face. He's not a heel anymore. I for sure thought Cody Rhodes was going to turn heel in this match. That's what I thought was going to happen. We don't know if Cody Rhodes is still going to be retained heel as he gets more into the championship, of course. This was a great gruesome match. It was a no-holds-barred street fight. A lot of weapons were used. They went through the barricade. They went through the crowd. And, of course, John Cena comes out and has an on the shoulder and coming up the elevator where Cody Rhodes used for his entrance. I thought that was pretty cool as a pop and as on-camera action. It turns out that, this was a great match. John Cena gave us a little bit more than his 3 moves that he always does. We got a little bit more from John Cena, but you can tell that John Cena, mentally and physically, he's getting older, right? He can't do all the moves like he used to do, but he's getting more older into it. And I like it. I'm here for it. I'm here for a lot of things that come up with it when it comes down to John Cena doing his thing. But then we ended up seeing Cody Rhodes winning the championship. Dope. I'm here for it. Good to see Cody Rhodes back into the championship. We'll wait and see if Cody's going to be the heel, right? It was very emotional. He had where they had an excerpt where Dusty Rhodes, his father, was talking at the beginning of his entrance, and then he comes out. Very, very dope to see Cody Rhodes come up on top within John Cena. Now he's now champion. Now what waits for John Cena as a face? This is where WWE did it. John Cena becomes a face. Of course, he loses the championship match, but now the focus that he has to work on now, because I thought The Rock was going to come out too, Mr. Brock Lesnar. At first, I was like, oh, Brock Lesnar's back. They're about to plug Brock Lesnar and everything. Because Brock Lesnar, when he came back the first time, Brock Lesnar he was just doing a lot, and it was just annoying. I'm intrigued to see what happens to this now, because you're going to have Brock Lesnar versus John Cena now. Now you made John Cena a face. Brock Lesnar is the certified heel. He would never be a face in WWE. He's always been the bad guy. Now you're going to have them two square off because they were longtime rivals back in the day to modern day wrestling, from the PG-13 era to the PG era, and now you're in the streaming Netflix era now. I am waiting to see what's going to happen when it comes down to Brock Lesnar and John Cena. Like I say, SummerSlam, they did the thing. Over 100,000 fans total, right? So they had 60 some out on both nights, so a total of 113,000 plus fans at MetLife Stadium. Really, really dope. I can't wait to see what happens next when it comes down to wrestling, of course. Tonight will be Monday Night Raw. Of course, check in for K.L.P. Aftermath tomorrow as I do my reviews on Raw tomorrow. But SummerSlam, I think they got something. I think they did something very special there. So we wait to see what happens next.
What the 2025 Major League Baseball trade deadline lacked in blockbusters, it made up for in volume. From the first deal on July 24th to the last at 5:59 p.m. ET on July 31st, teams made 63 trades and exchanged 179 players, including those to be named later. One team dealt away 10 players from its big league roster. Another added 7 new faces. Every team made at least one move. All of it served to reinforce an indisputable truth. Nobody does a deadline like baseball. To honor that, we present an award ceremony like no other. Honors for the dozen most interesting elements of the 2025 deadline, starting with an atypical biggest winner. The best deadline belonged to a dealer award, the Athletics. Plenty of impact players moved to contenders at this year's deadline. So for the A's to be the big winners took the sort of trade that almost never gets made anymore. Heading into deadline season, Leo DeVries, the 18-year-old, switch-hitting shortstop, who was the prize of the San Diego Padres farm system, was considered off-limits in any trade conversation. 3 days before the deadline, though, Padres president of baseball operations, A.J. Preller showed a willingness to discuss him in potential deals for A's closer Mason Miller and Guardians left fielder Stephen Kwan. The A's pounced, including Miller and left-hander J.P. Sears, to net DeVries and a trio of right-handed pitching prospects, Braden Nett, Henry Baez, and Eduardo Nunez. DeVries is the no. 3 prospect in baseball on Kylie McDaniel's updated top 50 ranking. He has more than held his own in high A as a teenager and figures to be in the big leagues, perhaps as a shortstop, perhaps at third base, by the time he's 21. And there, he would join what's quickly becoming one of the best lineups in baseball, loaded with Nick Kurtz, Brent Rooker, Jacob Wilson, Lawrence Butler, Shea Langeliers, Tyler Soderstrom, and Denzel Clark. "I'm so pissed we didn't get DeVries," one evaluator said. "They got DeVries for a guy who pitches 1 inning at a time," another lamented. These sorts of deals simply don't happen. In a prospect-hugging world, deals that include top 5 prospects are once-in-a-decade occurrences. Literally, the previous time a prospect of DeVries caliber moved was when the Chicago White Sox landed the consensus no. One in MLB, Yoan Moncada, from the Boston Red Sox in the 2016 deal for Chris Sale. Sale was coming off 5 consecutive seasons receiving Cy Young votes. The Who Needs Those Kids Anyway award, the San Diego Padres. DeVries and company were not the only Padres prospects to move. In deals that netted them Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano, Freddie Fermin, Nestor Cortez, and Will Wagner, San Diego dealt 10 more players still rookie-eligible. Nobody is willing to sacrifice the future for the present quite like Preller. Even if the A's letter grade for the deadline matches their nickname, it doesn't doom the Padres to an F. On the contrary, there are situations that warrant risky decision-making, and San Diego exemplifies that. Michael King, Dylan Cease, Robert Suarez, and Luis Arias are headed to free agency. Manny Machado isn't getting any younger. The Padres' window is now. In the franchise's 56-year history, it has made 2 World Series and won none. The previous time the Padres participated in the World Series, the year's first 2 digits were 19. The Padres now have the best bullpen in baseball, and O'Hearn, Laureano, and Fermin round out a lineup with Machado, Arias, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, Jake Cronenworth, and Xander Bogaerts. There's not a weak spot in their order or bullpen. And if King gets healthy, Nick Pivetta keeps shoving, and Cease or Yu Darvish find themselves, they will be as dangerous as anyone in the National League come October. San Diego might wind up the no. 6th seed, but so were the Texas Rangers in 2023, and that didn't stop them from getting their franchise's first ring. The Joel Robuchon Award for absolutely cooking, the Seattle Mariners. Give the Mariners credit. They got the best bat at the deadline in Eugenio Suarez, filled a position of need at first base with Josh Naylor, deepened their bullpen with left-hander Caleb Ferguson, and did so without sacrificing Colt Emerson, Johnny Farmelo, Ryan Sloan, Durangelo Cinch, Michael Arroyo, Lazaro Montes, Harry Ford, or Felman Celesin, all top 100 caliber prospects. The new-look Mariners took 3 of 4 from the Rangers, with whom they entered their series tied, over the weekend. Seattle is almost fully healthy, and with Bryce Miller carving in his rehab assignment with a fastball tickling 98 miles per hour and Victor Robles potentially back in September, the Mariners are 2 recalls away from having the scariest squad they have had since their resurgence started in 2021. By no means did they fleece the Diamondbacks for Suarez and Naylor. Arizona needed pitching and got quality arms in both deals, and Tyler Locklear should be the team's first baseman for the next half-decade. But this deadline was about an organization that has drafted as well as any in the 2020s, shedding its relative conservatism to take a run in a year where there is no favorite. That's worthy of some Robichon potatoes. The Pittsburgh Pirates Award for frustrated fan base. The Chicago Cubs and Boston Red Sox. The Cubs and Red Sox entered deadline season in search of the same archetype, a high-end starting pitcher with multiple years of club control. Both exited with that need unfulfilled. Boston came close. The Red Sox were willing to part with a number of high-end prospects to land right-hander Joe Ryan from the Minnesota Twins. But that wasn't expressed until the deadline was nearing, and the Twins were so deep in other talks to disassemble their roster, the prospect of moving Ryan had lost appeal. The Cubs landed Michael Soroka from the Washington Nationals the day before the deadline, but the trade demands for Ryan, Nationals left-hander Mackenzie Gore and right-handers Sandy Alcantara and Edward Cabrera of the Miami Marlins were too high for Chicago's liking. Ranking prospects dealt at trade deadline. Which future stars are on the move this MLB trade season? Let's rank the top prospects changing teams. The balance the majority of front offices try to strike is not easy. They want to win this year, but they also want to win going forward. What's most telling is that these are 2 organizations with enormous expectations and limitations. When the Red Sox dealt Yoan Moncada in 2016, they were consistently a top 5 payroll team. Hoarding young, affordable players wasn't nearly the imperative it is now, when for the past 3 seasons Boston has entered opening day with a payroll outside the top 10. When the Cubs made the Aroldis Chapman deal in 2016 and the Jose Quintana deal the next season, they were consistently a top 6 payroll team. Over the past 5 years, their opening day payrolls have ranked 12th, 14th, 11th, 9th, and 12th, respectively. Could their front offices have ignored those realities and gone for broke? Sure, and none of their fans would have minded, for now. But if they lost in October this year and one of the prospects they moved broke out, not only would the deals be seen as failures, but because they would have been made against the advice of analytical models, they would have been of the you should be known variety. Running a team isn't easy. Running a team that has pulled back on payroll for seemingly no good reason is a particular sort of challenge. The fact that there is no true World Series favorite this year makes the frustration from fans especially warranted, but it's also a reminder that no decision is made in a vacuum. Context with the Red Sox and Cubs matters. The Juggling Octopus Award, the Minnesota Twins. The Twins are for sale. What had one meaning going into the deadline? The franchise has been on the market since this past October. Took on a completely different one in the final 48 hours of trade season, when Minnesota shipped off 10 big leaguers and completely altered its trajectory. The bloodletting was stunning in its scope. The Twins traded their highest-paid player, shortstop Carlos Correa, to Houston. They moved their closer, Joan Duran, to Philadelphia, which later acquired center fielder Harrison Bader from Minnesota. They sent right-hander Chris Paddock to Detroit, unloaded their bullpen of Brock Stewart, Los Angeles Dodgers, Danny Coulombe, Texas, and Louis Varland, Toronto Blue Jays, along with first baseman Ty France. Super utility man Willie Castro went to the Cubs. And finally, and most surprising, relief ace Griffin Jax landed in Tampa Bay. Just like that, players making around $65 million this year were gone in an instant, replaced by a mixture of big leaguers, right-hander Taj Bradley and outfielders James Outman and Alan Roden, high-end prospects catcher Eduardo Tate, right-hander Mick Abel, left-hander Kendry Rojas, and lottery tickets. Days later, the industry remains stunned by the extent of the dump. How much of it is attributable to clearing the books for the sale of the team is unclear. But what shouldn't be lost in it is that the Twins still find themselves in a reasonable position to compete going forward. Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez are an excellent 1 to 2 atop the rotation. The everyday lineup, with Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis, Matt Wallner, and Ryan Jeffers, will soon be complemented by top prospects such as Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez, Luke Keyshaw, and K.L.P. They've got excellent starting pitching depth, and suddenly they've got plenty of payroll flexibility for the winter. Will the new owner use it? That's the key, of course. A fire sale is to tear down. A recommitment of resources is a strategy most teams don't have the gumption to undertake. Which course the Twins chart won't be clear until next spring. The You Can Always Go Home award. The Houston Astros acquire Carlos Correa. When it was first reported that the Astros were keen on reacquiring Correa, a linchpin of Houston's run to 7 consecutive AL Championship Series, the news registered as a shock. Correa's journey, free agent market creators, signs short-term with the Twins, opts out, as deals with San Francisco and the New York Mets fall apart, returns to Minnesota, seemed like it had reached an end, particularly when the Astros insisted on the Twins eating upward of $50 million of the $104 million owed Correa through the end of 2028 and throwing in a reliever like Jax. Minnesota wasn't against trading Correa. It was against stupidity. The deal looked dead going into the last 24 hours before the deadline. It was defibrillated when the Astros moved off the additional player ask and upped their end of covering Correa's salary to $71 million. The deal came together about 2 hours before the deadline, helping Houston get past the season-ending right hamstring tear of third baseman Isaac Paredes and bolster itself as its two closest competitors, the Mariners and Rangers, who acquired right-hander Merrill Kelly and right-handed reliever Phil Maton along with Colomb, saw the AL West crown within reach. To pave the way for the deal, Correa waived his no-trade clause. He never left Houston, keeping a home there, and when the Astros returned from their current 9-game road trip on August 11, the ovation will be deafening. For all the foundational players who have left the Astros, the sight of Correa and Jose Altuve sharing an infield will conjure memories Houstonians won't ever forget. The best deal is the one you don't make award. The Cleveland Guardians hold Stephen Kwan. For all the talks Cleveland held with other teams about left fielder Kwan, and there were plenty, the Guardians wound up not moving the two-time All-Star despite a number of strong offers. Perhaps no team in MLB navigates trade talks of veteran players with the discipline and conviction of the Guardians. They set their trade demands for Kwan, and no one met them, so they held him. And that's a good thing for a city like Cleveland, which has never gotten used to its team's propensity to extract value out of tenured players before they reach free agency. There's a specific sort of pride in Cleveland, which has suffered without a championship longer than any other baseball team, and the prospect of kicking the can down the road again invoke painful memories of the departures of C.C. Sabathia, Francisco Lindor, Cliff Lee, and plenty of others. Between Jose Ramirez and Kwan, the Guardians have two of the steadiest players in the game. Building a lineup around them, and fashioning a proper rotation as well, is the trick on a skimpy payroll. A deal for Kwan could materialize again over the winter, which tends to be when position players get a greater return than at the deadline. Might the runners-up for free agent Kyle Tucker see Kwan, a lesser player, but a damn good one still, as a reasonable fallback plan? Sure, it's all part of life for the Guardians, who reflexively shuffle as if they're stuck in an endless game of three-card Monte. For now, they held off, and perhaps they can use the next 3 months to fashion the sort of contract extension offer that would convince Kwan to remain in a Guardians uniform for a long time to come. The one big move can change everything award, the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies needed, a late-inning relief solution after the past calendar year reminded them of the necessity of bullpen stability. As good as their relievers were this past year during the regular season, the bullpen faltered spectacularly during their division series loss against the Mets. Compound that with the struggles of closer Jordan Romano, the loss of Jose Alvarado for the coming October due to a previous performance enhancing drug suspension and the fragility of their other relievers, and there was no team that needed a player more than the Phillies did a fireman. Enter Joan Duran. The fit was perfect. It cost the Phillies in Tate and Abel, a prospect haul they were willing to part with because it didn't include Andrew Painter, Aiden Miller, or Justin Crawford, their top three. and it gave him a lockdown closer with arguably the best pure stuff in baseball. His splinter and curveball are his two best pitches, which is saying something considering Duran runs his fastball up to 103 miles per hour and has hit triple digits 161 times this season. Beyond Duran, the Phillies can turn to Orion Kerkering and Matt Strom and hope they fare better this October than last. David Robertson will arrive soon to bolster the group. Tanner Banks has been good. They're not the Padres. They're not the Brewers. But with the best starting rotation in the NL, they don't need to be. Philadelphia's relievers simply need to be good enough. And after the addition of Duran, they are. The October is for Relievers Award. The New York Mets and Yankees. About 59% of innings this year have been thrown by starting pitchers. In recent seasons, that percentage has dropped demonstrably come the postseason. Relievers account for around 50% of the innings pitched in the playoffs. And teams at this deadline acted like they understood the necessity for bullpen help. Nobody added more help than the New York teams. The Mets gave up a lot to add Ryan Helsley and Tyler Rogers to a bullpen that already included Edwin Diaz, Brooks Raley, and Reed Garrett. And as much as it cost in prospects, they didn't have to move any of their troika of top-flight starting pitchers, Jonah Tom, Nolan McLean, and Brandon Sproat, or their positional standouts, Jet Williams and Carson Bench. The Yankees not only got relief arms in former Pirates closer David Bednar, Giants closer Camilo Doval, and Rockies setup man Jake Bird, but controlled them for multiple years. As grisly as Bednar, Doval, and Bird's debuts were with the Yankees, the sweep at Miami's hands over the weekend was the nadir of New York season. They ultimately will make the bullpen better. Is it good enough to help them traverse the AL? The team that has spent most of the season atop the standings table, Detroit, thought enough of bullpen depth to acquire 4 relief arms at the deadline. The Astros, currently atop the West, have the second-best bullpen ERA in the AL, behind the Red Sox, who leapt ahead of the Yankees in the standings over the weekend. And the Blue Jays relief corps has the second-highest strikeout rate of any big league bullpen. The Mets and Yankees simply did what they needed to do to compete. The Less is More award, the ST. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak could have gone out and floated any number of desirable players, from Brendan Donovan to Ivan Herrera to Lars Nootbaar, and found a market worth pursuing. Instead, Mozeliak kept things simple, and it was the right thing to do. He's leaving his position at the end of season, ceding to former Red Sox Chief Baseball Officer Chaim Bloom, and in unloading only Helsley, Maton, and Steven Matz, all impending free agents. Mozeliak did not overstep his bounds and make deals that should be the purview of his replacement. Other executives might have let ego get in the way in trying to put one final stamp on a franchise they've run for more than a decade. Mozeliak instead recognized this as Bloom's team going forward, and figuring out how to pilot a group that's good but not good enough is no longer Mozeliak's responsibility. There's urgency for change with the Cardinals. It's just not the sort of urgency that needed to be met by an outgoing executive. For all the disappointment the Cardinals have provided in the last 3 seasons, attendance is down in that time from more than 40,000 per game to less than 29,000. They've got plenty of room to expand their payroll, a future star on the cusp of the big leagues in J.J. Weatherholt, and a wide suite of options going into this winter. In a division as competitive as the NL Central will be over the next half-decade, they're going to need everything they can get. The A for Effort Award, the Kansas City Royals. Know thyself. It's perhaps the most important characteristic for any front office. Know the quality of your big league team. Know your personnel. Know your strengths. Know your weaknesses. Know your purpose. A cursory glance at the Royals could have left outsiders wondering what business a sub-.500 team had adding at the deadline. And yet it was the perfect example of the Royals understanding themselves. Even with ace Cole Reagan sidelined and all-star left-hander Chris Bubic out for the season, both with left shoulder injuries, the Royals know their market. They know Kansas City suffered too many non-competitive seasons to spend the final 2 months of this season reliving those memories. They know that they want to get a new stadium built, and the first effort at that led to voters rejecting a proposal that would have helped erect one. They know that they've got only so many years of Bobby Witt Jr. before he can opt out of his contract. They know, more than anything, that a wildcard spot in the AL can be backdoored, because they saw Detroit, nearly 10 games under at the deadline this past year, do just that. So yeah, if the price isn't prohibitive, why not try to win? Kansas City got outfielders Mike Yastrzemski and Randall Grichuk, along with pitchers Bailey Falter, Ryan Burgard, and Stephen Kolek, without giving up a top prospect. The best player the Royals dealt was catcher Freddie Fermin, and considering their top two prospects are catchers Carter Jensen and Blake Mitchell, they moved from a position of strength. The Royals telegraphed this tack when they signed right-hander Seth Lugo to a 2-year, $46 million extension, but it still caught some in the industry off guard.
Thank you, Jackson, for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's going to wrap up the Bro Code Podcast here today. We hope that you guys enjoyed this episode for the Bro Code Podcast presented by iHeartMedia. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, my LinkedIn, Facebook Watch, or whatever you get your video content from, we thank y'all. And if you're listening to us on the Bro Code Podcast on iHeartMedia, our big partners, or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we thank y'all so very much in advance. And it's been a pleasure, Jackson T, to have y'all here. Tune in tomorrow again, K.L.P. Aftermath Podcast tomorrow from the radio station. We're going to be live and in person for another new episode for the week. Again, that is a podcast you do not want to miss. Until next time, we'll catch y'all in the next Bro Code Podcast. Again, stay true to the code. We'll see y'all on the next episode.
Welcome to the Bro Code Podcast. Join Kennedy Lucas, Terry Lester, and Jackson Smith as they break down the biggest plays, share locker room banter, and keep it 100 on sports hot takes. Gear up, because this is where the real talk begins. Cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up. Cause this is where the real talk begins. Gear up.